Hello everyone, I'm Marnix. You know me for pretty much doing everything that's not programming here at Bite Me Games, but today I just wanted to take a quick moment and talk about three top skills that I think you must have, or you're just gonna fail as an indie developer in my opinion. And I'll also be covering one bonus skill, so stick around. So what do I mean with you will fail? Well, we all know the main skills that we need when programming, or well, I say it already, when creating a game is programming, and especially if you're making a 3D game, 3D modeling. Those two are foundational skills and there's no denying that. If you can't program or you can't 3D model at all, well, you have a problem, but then most likely you won't be here making your own game just yet. However, what I notice is that a lot of people who can program and 3D model, they also have to do a lot of other tasks that maybe they were never aware of that they had to do. So that's what happened with me. Here at Bite Me, I'm working together with three other guys. All three of them are programmers, and we decided that I am the one who does everything else. And at first I thought, okay, well, it's like what? I do some 3D modeling and that's it? No. There's a lot more, and I feel kind of cheated and scammed, but now it is what it is. So I figured I would explain a bit more to you guys what are the main skills that I think you need in order to make sure your game can be a success. So the first thing I would like to talk about, first skill that you probably don't really want to think about or just ignore or whatever, or just haven't thought about before, is marketing. Why do I say marketing? I think that one is quite obvious, but you've just never really realized that, hey, I can have a banger game. It can have great visuals, great mechanics, be programmed like a beauty. But if nobody buys it, nobody plays it, even if you don't care about sales, what's the point? You have, say it as you want, it may sound harsh, but if no one buys your game, you failed as an indie developer and you just threw away probably a few years of work. So with marketing, it can be a lot of things. Marketing can be this. You're watching a video right now where I'm marketing to you, so I can tell you that, hey guys, in the link down below, there's a link that leads to our Steam page where you can wishlist our game right now. Right now, I'll wait, you can click it, because we'll be releasing our game Forge Industry in March next year. That's marketing, simple as that. Marketing can be other things. Marketing can be going to a convention and talking to people all day, explaining why they should buy your game. Or it can just be about giving demos, talking to people, not being a complete social wreck. All of those things are a bit related to marketing, or what you see often as well is stuff like Twitter or posting on Reddit. All marketing and all about making sure your game is known, so that once the game releases, you'll have plenty of people playing it. I'm also going to give you some quick advice on how can you start implementing these skills immediately. Make a YouTube channel if you're an indie developer. There's no reason not to. It can be as good or as bad as you want. You dedicate as much or as little time to it as you want. I personally dedicate quite a bit of time to YouTube because it's also something that I enjoy. But it doesn't need to be fancy edited. Just have something. You will improve. The faster you start, the more you'll improve before your game releases. Apart from that, try to be active not just on YouTube, on Twitter, on also platforms that you maybe don't think about. So I don't really use Reddit or 9gag, stuff like that, but we still post on there. And probably maybe a few of you who are watching this video found us through our posts about Gameforce on Reddit or 9gag. There is no way that you can make too much, because that's something that people always say, like, oh, I don't want to spam people's timelines, maybe they'll hate my game. You'll need to really spam a lot before people will actually start being actively ooh, I don't want to play that game, it's been shoved too much down my throat. Make as much content as you can, and while still having some level of quality. For us, that's one video a week, but you can make tweets every day. That's perfect. We aren't even at that stage yet. We're still learning as well how to do our social media, but we're learning whilst we're developing our game. We're not learning this once our game is already done and we have bills to pay. I mean, we still have bills to pay, but whatever. The second skill I want to talk to you about is project management and project planning. If you do not do this skill, you will never release your game. I can tell you that for certain. There are no games that have been released that have not like some form of project planning. When you're a solo developer, it can be quite easy to not deal with it because it's extra overhead and it makes you slow down. You just want to program or like make graphics or art or write a story, but you need to do project planning. Why? How are you going to, for example, like I told you earlier, our game is releasing in March. There's no way you know that if you don't have a planning. If you don't know what are you gonna work on, what are your goals, you don't even know what your end game might look like. We have set down, this is what our game will look like, this is what we'll do every month in order to reach that desired state, and then that day we can release. If you're a solo indie developer, you can still get away with doing quite a simple project planning because you're the one person. But chances are if you're working with someone else or you're working even in a bigger team like we're here at ByteMe, you'll have to use a more robust system of project planning. And that's where Agile comes in. We've already made a previous video on Agile. You can, somewhere up there should be a pop-up for that. But let me quickly rephrase it. What you need is you need a Kanban board. So we use GitLab because it's included in there. But if you don't have that, what you can do now is you can get a free Trello. And on Trello, you make some columns. This is everything I want to do. This is what I'm currently doing. And this is what I've done. And you make little cards, and every card is a task. So it's maybe programming a shop mechanic or a harbor or whatever, stuff like that. And then you can simply track, this is everything I still need to do. This is everything I'm currently working on. And this is everything I've done. And that also just makes it much more easy to see that, how do I plan everything? And then the last skill, because the previous two ones, they were maybe not as tangible. The last skill is something technical that you can do right now, and that is to learn Photoshop. Photoshop is probably this tool I use the most in my day-to-day life, from making these thumbnails, from making sprites. All the sprites to our game, for example, I've made in Photoshop, from making our business cards or promo art. I think Photoshop I use even more than Blender, because every building I make in Blender, I also need to make icons for in Photoshop. So Photoshop is a really important tool for anything in life basically, but especially when doing something digital like game development, you should really look into not mastering, but having a good understanding of what can Photoshop do and how can you reach it. Now, Photoshop may be intimidating or whatever, you don't have the money, there's trials, there's other ways, shall we say, to get it. Something like Photoshop is much superior in my opinion, even compared to the alternatives that people sometimes give, like GIMP is one that comes to mind. Photoshop does everything GIMP does and much more, and it does it much better. So just learn it, get it somehow. And once you have it, I would recommend to not immediately jump into your game, but first learn the interface. And the funnest way, in my opinion, to learn how everything works is simply by taking something, for example, some pictures with your friends and working with that. So maybe you want to remove your friends or remove people from family photos. You want to make it look like you're on Mars. There's a lot of fun stuff you can do with Photoshop, or just like tweak colors, stuff like that. And that way you can very easily get the hang of the general interface. And then once you're working on your game stuff and you really want to find something specific, like how do I select every certain tint of a color, or how do I crop out certain backgrounds or fill content aware, you can look up those things individually on YouTube. I wouldn't recommend watching a 5-hour full Photoshop tutorial. No, I would just look at what is the thing I need right now. Okay, I need to cut out the background. Okay, let me watch a 2-minute video of it and immediately implement it on whatever I was needing it for. That's, in my opinion, the best way to learn how all of this works. So those are the 3 main skills that you need to learn. However, I have one special one that is probably as important, or maybe even probably a lot more important actually. And that's knowing when you count to something. So I do a lot of stuff, but there's also some things that I don't know, that I can't learn quickly, or that is simply not worth me learning. So what comes to mind then is we have our worker models, I designed them, but we needed them rigged because we wanted to move the arms a bit and the legs, although we got rid of the legs. And I spent like 2 hours following some Blender tutorials, but I was so stuck, I couldn't get it working, and I was just like, okay, I can spend probably another 8 hours on this with no guarantee that I can like finish it, and I'll get frustrated, and that's 8 hours that I cannot make, for example, other models or something else related to the game, making these videos also. And that's where I decided that, okay, how much do I value those 8 hours? Do I value it more than the $10 that I need to pay someone on Fiverr to get this rigged in probably like 10 minutes, who has been doing this for a long time? Of course, it's a better deal to get the guy on Fiverr. So it can be worth it to get something on Fiverr. Another big one that also was a bit more costly was our promo art. It was so vital that we had good concept or like promo art for our banners and stuff like that. We needed something eye-catching, and nobody of us could draw. So what do you do then? Well, you have to basically either find someone on like Twitter or whatever who has commissions open, or we also found someone on Fiverr again. We paid them some money, and then a week later we got some stunning art that you've probably seen float around in our videos and whatever before. And that was probably the most return on investment thing we've got, because we get sales back at Gameforce. We got sales by people who simply just looked at our banner and were like, this is amazing, I want to learn more about the game. So really think about, okay, we don't want to spend money because we're broke indie developers, but sometimes it is really worth it to just spend that little bit of money that you have and save you so much time, so you can focus on things you like more, or on things that will deliver more value that you know how to do. For example, someone programming a game concept, you can't do that on Fiverr unless you want to hire a guy completely, basically. So that brings us to the end. So to rephrase, you should get into marketing, get into project planning, you should get into Photoshop, and you should learn when not to learn. That's basically what this video comes down to. I hope you enjoyed this. Speaking of marketing, we have a Discord channel down below that you can join as well if you want to interact with us directly. Comments are also available, of course. You can also follow us on Twitter, where, like I told you before, we're not posting that much yet, but we are actively trying to keep improving. If you just like this video as well and you're new here, hi, please subscribe. It would really mean a lot to us, helps us out as well. And I think we can help you out in exchange by creating some of this interesting content. That's all I have for now. So thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next video.